Oh, Jeff, I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome.
You're not as happy as I am to be here.
Oh, you're so sweet. We have so many good things to talk about. Let's start with this. You had a very unlikely trajectory to your current situation, which is kind of in its own way your classic trajectory now. You are the co-founder and CEO of Promescent Brands. What are Promescent Brands? How did you end up here? Let's start there.
I tell people I took the most circuitous route ever to being the CEO of a sexual wellness company because I was the CEO of a semiconductor engineering business. There could be nothing further aligned than making integrated circuits computer chips and selling. Initially, when I first got involved in the company, we were strictly a one-trick pony. We had a treatment for premature ejaculation for men. Now, that was a rather circuitous route. And it happened because I was very fortunate and sold my last company and retired. And my next door neighbor happened to be the original founder of Promescent, the guy who had the idea. He was the director of urology at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach, and he specialized in sexual medicine. And he just so happened to be a neighbor, a friend, my doctor, all rolled into
Mhm.
one. So he came up to me, and I had raised my son as a single father, started a business to be very successful. My son left and went to college, and I sold my business all within a 6 month period of time. I went from being busy literally 15, 17 hours a day, 7 days a week, to have absolutely nothing to do. And I'm one of those classic people that built something from nothing, worked their butt off, was totally involved in my son's life, coached all of his sports teams, involved in his school. He and I literally did everything together. And all of a sudden I went, what am I going to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a
Yeah.
week? I felt almost embarrassed. Like it was like, what's my purpose?
Mm.
And he came to me and said, hey, I started this new company. Can you help me out? And I'm like, sure. What is it? And he goes, I developed a treatment for PE. And because at the time, which was 13 years ago, I was 55, I said, you developed a treatment for physical education? Because
Sure.
when I was in school, PE was
Right.
phys ed.
Of
He
course.
started laughing. No, it's premature. I go, oh, like erectile dysfunction is ED. This is PE, blah, 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 blah. Like any good business person, I go, well, let me see the efficacy of it. I said, you have a sample? At first, I thought it was a prescription, because he was a
Hmm.
doctor. And he goes, no, it's over the counter. So he gave me a sample of it and I tried it. And I was like, oh my God, this stuff really works. So the next day, I invested $100,000.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I thought, hey, I want a piece of this because I think this is going to be big. And long story short, within a year, they asked me to take over the company because I wrote them a business plan, and they were like, hey, you're really good at this. I go, you keep being a doctor, let me be the business person.
Yeah.
We'll grow. And we started to grow. Unfortunately, Ron was murdered in a case of mistaken.
Yeah, which
Just
I don't want to get too into that, although I will
yeah.
tell you most women's wellness fans are also true crime fans. So there is something sort of in synchronicity here. I don't want you to get too into the story, but I do want you to just tell us exactly the short version of what happened to him.
Short version. So there was a gentleman named Stanwood Elkis that had had a prostate surgery 23 years prior to that, which would be 35 years ago now. Don't ask me why it took him 23 years to figure I was unhappy. Decided he was going to kill the doctor that did the surgery.
Ugh.
He got the name wrong because it was 23 years prior. He had no idea. And he thought he knew who it was. It was a very similar name, but not the same. And the guy was also a urologist in Newport Beach. The guy had died 2 years prior of a heart attack. He wasn't even alive. He made an appointment with Ron. Ron walked into the office thinking he was seeing the last patient in the morning on January 27th, 2013. The guy was waiting in a shooting position and murdered him.
Mm,
Never tried to run. He shot him 8 times. He had 9 bullets. He was intending on committing suicide, but he chickened out.
mm.
And then just basically they came and arrested me, but I'm crazy. I'm nuts. He handed the gun over to the other doctors and he's in jail. He'll never be out, fortunately for everybody.
How did you
But
receive this news?
that is the most insane part ever. So we had our first substantive offer for the company the night before this happened.
Mm,
And he had stopped by and, oh my God, we got to take it. And I said, we're just getting started. I said, trust me, this office offer sounds great, but we have a lot more runway. Well, you're the one who built it. I trust you, blah, blah, blah. We talked to the other shareholders. Let's ride with it. If Jeff thinks that, there's more upside. And I remember we walked out and he had this little convertible Lexus and he said, hey, I love you, brother. You made my dream a reality. I'm really happy. I said, I love you too, my man. I said, fasten your seatbelt. This ride's just getting started. He sent me a text the next morning, said, hey, I'm just ecstatic. And I said, like I said, fasten that seatbelt. And I was on a call, and all of a sudden, a friend of mine whose wife was a nurse at Hoag Hospital kept calling and calling. I'm like, what is going on? What could be so urgent? So as soon as I got off the phone, I called him back. He goes, are you sitting down? I said, yeah, I'm in my home office. And he goes, Ron got shot. I'm like, Ron who? He goes, your partner, Dr. Ron Gilbert. I go, he's at his office in Hoag Hospital, Newport Beach. He just texted me. He goes, I know. And I don't know, for those who listening who don't know what Newport Beach is, it's like the Orange County's Beverly Hills.
Right.
Okay. There is no crime like this, especially at Hoag Hospital.
Right.
It was insane. And I remember thinking that's impossible. And I said, is he okay? He said, no, my understanding is he's passed away. And I didn't believe it. And I turned on the television, a local station in Southern Cal, and it showed Hoag Hospital with SWAT teams. And I'm like, oh my God.
Ugh.
And a lot of people, it's our nature in society. We tend to make more out of people in death than they are in life. This is a
Yeah.
guy you didn't have to do that with.
Yeah.
He truly had no enemies. He was loved by everyone, no ego. So the hardest thing was literally trying to figure out what happened. And the police had a lockdown on the information when it first happened. And then we found out a week or two later that it was somebody that thought it was someone different, had the case of mistaken identity. That was a whole different level of insanity.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's killed in a car wreck or a plane wreck, it's tragic, no less tragic, make no mistake about that. But there's almost this feeling of inevitability, and it's almost this feeling of, well, it was, just his time. The system of the universe just picked his number in a lottery. For those of us who truly loved him or were close to him, you can't help but be haunted by a feeling of not only could he still be here, he should still be here.
Yeah.
That was insane. It was so preventable.
And he had a family, right?
Oh my God, he had a wife and two young sons.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And seeing them, they were personal friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Was just, it was unthinkable. Even now I think back to that night when we all went to the house, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was surreal. I just remember people wailing and crying and people coming over, and it's something you have to do. It's something you want to do, to be there, but it's something that's so incredibly painful
Yes.
that it, I again, it's so senseless. It's hard to really wrap your arms around it.
Were you involved at all in the arrest of this part? Did you go to court for the killer or anything, or were you like, I don't want to have anything to do with it?
I, it was tough, but
Mm.
I gave the victim's impact statement. The
Okay.
wife asked me to do that, and I was honored to be asked. But can you imagine standing 12 feet away from this piece of garbage
No.
and giving this thing? But it was funny. I gave it a lot of thought. And at first it was going to be anger. It was going to be, you, how dare you, blah, 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 blah. But when it came down to it, I channeled Ron, and
Mm.
I really wanted to be his voice. I really wanted to be, his mouthpiece. I
Mm.
never acknowledged him. I never gave him any more notoriety. Never. All I did was talk about the loss, the friends who were without their best friend. And a lot of people thought he was their best friend. The patients who no longer had their doctor, the wife who no longer had her husband, the sons who no longer had their father,
Yeah.
all these types of things. And I remember at his funeral, they had read a letter. Somehow he had the foresight in case he ever had an accident. And I don't understand why he did it, but he wrote a letter to his two sons in case
Wow.
something like this had happened. And they read it.
Mm.
And it was like, in case I'm not there for when you graduate from high school, in case I'm not there
Wow.
for when you get married, in case I'm not there when your first child is born. And I brought that up in, my eulogy or whatever victim's impact
Hmm.
statement, and said, he had the foresight to do that, which is great. But why would we ever even have to experience that? He should still be here right now. And it was really emotional. And I went on for 20 minutes, and the district attorney had come up to me afterwards and went, you did that without notes. You did that cold. I said, yeah. Because how did you do that? I said, he was my friend. He was my
Yeah.
partner. He was my mentor in terms of this business. I said, I didn't need any notes. I just opened up my heart.
Mm.
And I remember afterwards, it was like I was having a panic attack. I tried to keep it together as much as I could during the actual address to the court. But I remember I went into the restroom and I just started splashing cold water
Mm.
on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I looked at myself in the mirror and I looked horrible
Mm.
because I had been through so much emotionally.
Yeah.
And I thought I was having a heart attack. I started gasping for air. I started choking and it scared me.
Yeah.
And I remember I got physically sick for a whole month after that. I don't think I've ever had any situation that was so emotionally fraught, like that, preparing for that, then being in court. And I had shed a lot of tears thinking about it and preparing for it. And I thought, okay, I'm ready. But they had this victims advocacy group that showed up and they had this 20-foot giant picture of him graduating from medical school, which had been 30 years prior. And then they had, all these things there. And that just opened up a lot. It was an incredibly trying. I was honored to be asked to do that. Nothing could have kept me away from doing it, but it was a tremendously trying situation. And
Mm.
it got me physically ill for 30 days afterwards. I
Mm.
remember I was numb.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love opportunities like this, because I almost left 30 days after he was murdered. The company,
I was going to ask how it affected your commitment to the business part of it.
I almost left. I said
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons I did this was to honor him and give him, the just reward for his brilliance in terms of developing this product. And I remember he was, like I told you, he was slain on January 27th in 2013. That Christmas, his wife and he invited my son and myself over to his home.
Mm.
And we were there Christmas. His family were there and all his kids and his extended family. And it was really funny. His wife pulled me aside. She said, I can't tell you what you've done for our family. And I go, what do you mean your family? She goes, Ron used to come home from work. He'd be frustrated. This company should be doing better. This product's great. The guy that I have running it, he was a high school college friend, is not doing justice. We're not getting off the ground. But he goes, he comes home now and he's like, oh my God, we're now being accepted. We're doing this, we're doing that. And, he's just a different person now. He was frustrated and angry, happy, and she means a lot to me. She's wonderful, and the
Yeah.
kids are really, really nice. So myself and my son were driving home, and I looked at him that night. It was over Christmas, and I said, some things you can't put a price tag on. They're not something you can quantify. I said, you know how much I love Ron. I think he's a wonderful human being. But the fact that he's a more positive person, that he's not frustrated, that his family life is better, that his marriage is better, because now he feels like something he spent 5 years of his life developing instead of it being wasted. And my son said, that's really nice that you feel that way,
Mm.
and
Mm.
it's really great that, you know, uh, they feel that way. And
Yeah.
that's what made it even more difficult when he was just ripped away.
Yeah. So
And
after this 30 days passed, how did you decide you're not going to leave?
I was in my office. It was March. He was murdered on January 27th. And I don't know why. I just Google searched him, his name. And the first 3 pages, and there's 10 entries on every page. Doctor shot by crazy guy, doctor murdered, doctor this, doctor that. And I thought, not only did the guy murder him, he took away his legacy.
Yeah.
He's no longer a father. He's no longer a doctor. He's no longer a friend. He's no longer a husband. He's he's just a footnote murdered by some crazy guy. And I said, there's two ways I can go. I can leave and just let someone else take this over, or I can literally give him a legacy and provide for his wife and his 2 children financially because they still own 20% of the company. And I decided right there that I'm not leaving, that it would haunt me the rest of my life. I'd feel like I bailed on something that I shouldn't have bailed on. So I decided right then, but I made a move that I think was necessary for me at the time. I moved to Summerlin, Nevada, in the hills outside of Las Vegas.
Mm.
Because I will tell you that you can't run away from emotional pain.
Yeah.
You can remove the triggers. driving by his house, driving by where our office was, driving by the place where we worked out, driving by the place where we went to lunch, driving by the place, where you get to a point and you just say to yourself, I can't be reminded of this all day, every day.
Hmm.
There'll be times every day where it comes up. And it's funny because one of the really ironic things is when it comes up the most is when we're having all this great success. Because it's
Yeah, you want
almost
to share it with
I
him.
want to share it with him. I
Yeah.
really wish he was here to see that.
Hmm.
I know this sounds crazy, but when I first took over the company, we had this like closet in his medical office. It had like 100 bottles of Promescent in it, and we've grown way past that. Remember, I went to the warehouse we have here. We have an 8,000 square foot warehouse. And I remember I went in and we had a forklift. We were unloading these.
Like
And I,
lifting lube all across the
yes.
factory. Yes.
And I'm like, we have a forklift. And I go, how do you think we get this stuff in and out? We had to, as because we're in Walmart and Target and CVS and Meyer and all this stuff now. And I think we've shipped 8 million units now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just have to stop and say your team has been incredibly generous. They offered me some samples, and I was like, of course. I had a babysitter here, and I get this giant package. My kids are in the other room, and the babysitter's in the kitchen, and I'm showing her how to do dinner. And I see this package, and I'm just opening it. I open it, there must be 20 units of lube in there. And I had to like quickly shut it so that the babysitter didn't see,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
again, I shouldn't be embarrassed. Obviously, I have sex and so does she, but I like immediately closed it. But your team was so incredibly generous, and I saw how many different products there are now in
Is
your
that
line.
incredible?
Yes, it was
When
incredible. I
he
was
was
expecting
here,
a little something, nothing, not like 12 boxes of stuff.
yeah, we have grown incredibly well. And I wish I could say we've grown because I'm this visionary and I'm a genius and I figured this. Here's how we grew. You'll laugh. So we had a lot of men, and the first 7 years, all we did was have men buy our product. And
Mhm.
I really developed a program, and I wasn't really that smart, but I just copied Viagra and Cialis. We got medical certification, so we went to doctors. They said, "Do a clinical trial." We did a clinical trial. People go, "Oh my God, that's $500,000, and there's no guarantee." I go, "I know it works. I have tried it. A lot of our patients and customers using it have tried it. I'm very confident that will yield a successful result." It did. And then we hired two pharmaceutical reps that indoctrinated us into that community so that the urologists loved us
Hmm.
and they started recommending us. So after about 6, 7 years in, a lot of people, because I'm really interactive with our client base and our customer base. I'm always, if I see someone, I send them an email, "Hey, what gave you the confidence to order 3 big bottles first, blah, blah, blah."
Hmm.
So I know a lot of them. And a lot of people are blown away. "You're actually the CEO, you're emailing me?" I go, "Yeah, I like to know how people find us, how we grow." And I started hearing from a lot of people, "Hey, I used to last 30 seconds. Now I last 8 minutes. I didn't need a lube. Now I need a lube. Can you develop a lube? I'd like to get everything here." I said, "Okay, great." So we developed this organic aloe vera lube, and it's quality. It's really good. So that worked. Then we had some people go, "Well, I just like a water-based lube." Okay, let's add that. Then we had some people, "Okay, I need a silicone lube for my toys." Okay, great. Let's do one of those. So we had Promescent delay spray and lubes. And then women are like, "Hey,
What about
what about
us?
us?" Because believe it or not, like 15% of people buying even delay spray are women buying it for their partner.
Sure.
So I said, "Okay, great. Let's do some research." The first thing we did, we added a women's warming gel, and that went really, really well. But as anyone who is either female or been around females long enough know that a lot of women have different trigger points. A lot of women have different desires and experiences sexually. Some people, and having been single for all my life, are really into, you're just aware that someone goes, "I'm very sensitive in that area. Don't touch me directly on the clit, just lightly around the vulva." Other women are like, "Get a brick, put a sandpaper on it." You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's not one size fits all. You know what I
Right.
mean? So we
Hmm.
had the warming lube, and a lot of people loved it because it brings a warming sensation, which increases blood flow, which is good for arousal. We had other people go, "That's more like tickling me. I need something a little stronger." So we developed a buzzing gel for the other end of the
Wow.
spectrum. And it became very, very successful. And trust me, the people that like warming don't like buzzing. The people like buzzing go, warming's not enough. But there's a market for both. So
Hmm.
we went in that area, and that went really well. And then I just happened to go to a seminar or association meeting. It's called SMSNA, Sexual Medicine Society in North America. It was in San Antonio. And one of my very good friends, who's one of the top urologists in sexual medicine, came up to me and goes, "You look really tired." I go, "That's because I am really tired." I go, "We're growing really fast. I can't hire people fast enough. I'm like burning the candle on both ends." Well, he said, I developed a product for some of my patients. He goes, it combines L-carnitine, L-citrulline, L-arginine, zinc, and magnesium. He goes, you should try it. I said, okay, great. He goes, I'll bring you some tomorrow. I said, okay, great. So he brings some. So I start taking it. All of a sudden, I felt more energy. I felt a little bit leaner. I'm like, oh, this stuff is dynamite. So my relationship at the time, about 2 weeks later, says, are you taking ED meds? I'm like, why? She goes, we've been intimate 13 days in a row. I said, I didn't know you were keeping a calendar, but I go, it has been pretty frequent. Hey, at the time I was 62, trust me,
Yeah, good for you,
good for me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not taking anything. I go, I would tell you, because I'm a firm believer, you never introduce anything into an intimate relationship without telling your partner, whether it's a gel, a lube, or anything. Okay.
Yes, love that.
So, yeah. So then I start thinking the only thing I'm doing different is taking this Vitaflux. So I called the doctor and I go, does this have like an arousal effect? He goes, of course it does. I'm a doctor. I go, well, you just told me for energy. He goes, I thought you'd take for granted. I go, oh my God. I go, this stuff is incredible. So I said, would you mind if we commercialize this, and sold it? He goes, yeah, we were actually going to try to do that. But because we don't have any other products, we're new, we start running ads and people are like, who are these guys? I'm not going to, buy that because we're unknown. He goes, you guys would be great. So we commercialized, start doing really well. And I have a neighbor who is a real fan of the company, and
Mhm.
he uses every product we have. As soon as we put it on the site, he's like, hey, what about this Vitaflux? And I said, oh, I'll drop you some off, and called me about a week later. He goes, oh my God, this stuff is great. I go, yeah, no, it's really, really good. Then he called me 2 weeks later. He goes, hey, I need something for my wife. And I'm like, what? He goes, we don't find something for my wife, I'm going to have to bring our housekeeper into the bedroom with it. You know what I mean? Because my wife, I go, I don't want to have that happen. Okay. I love you guys both. You're great neighbors. I don't want to. So I called the same doctor and I go, hey, this has a really good effect. And one of my neighbors is in love with it, but he needs something for his wife. And he starts laughing. I go, why are you laughing? He goes, Vitaflux, same product. I go, what? He goes, yeah. And he explained, I'd never really asked him about the mechanism involved. So nitric oxide supplements in general increase blood flow. When you increase blood flow, you decrease blood pressure. So this has positive effects even outside of the bedroom. So it lowers your blood pressure by blowing plaque out of your arteries by increasing blood flow. It also, believe it or not, increases arousal, because when you have increased blood flow into the genitals, it increases everywhere. You get heightened desire. Okay. It also, this is crazy, but every vein and artery in our body is covered by an epithelial layer. And the purpose of the epithelial layer is keep bad stuff out, bacteria, viruses, etc. And it also allows the absorption of positive things, vitamins, mineral, hormones. Now, that's all well and good up until you're in your mid 30s, your late 40s. When you hit that point, the epithelial layer hardens. It gets even better at keeping bad stuff out. It gets really good at keeping good stuff out, which is what you don't want.
Mm.
That's why the average male, the average female, after the age of 38, lose 0.5% of lean muscle and gain 0.5% of body fat every year. And your desire goes down because your hormones are going down. This softens the epithelial layer and reverses that. We have hundreds of women that are using this product specifically because they lost the ability to naturally moisturize. And
Hmm.
this allowed them to naturally moisturize. So it increases libido. A lot of people report that they have better orgasms because of increased blood flow in higher degrees of arousal. You lose body fat, you gain lean muscle. It just has a very, very positive effect. So we introduced that product and it was great. And I will tell you this, the first 8 years we had men only products. We have something called Zigpole on our website. And what Zigpole is only about 18% of people fill it out, but how did you find the product? How did you first, satisfaction is your first order, blah, blah, blah. And below it has a drop down menu. How did you find us? And was it a blog? Was it a podcast? Was it this doctor referral? If so, what doctor? The very last thing, referred by a friend or relative. The first 8 years with all the men involved, zero, not one, not one. Okay. As soon as we started selling female products, oh my God, how'd you find it? Oh, my friend told me. I was at Bunko. We were playing this dice game, and one of the women brought it up. And I'm like,
That's it.
I got this all wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
I should have started with female products.
That's
I
right.
tell our marketing department, here's our goal. Find one female in every city to start using our product. They will take it from there. Okay.
That's right.
If a man finds something that he feels gives him an advantage sexually, the first thing he does is go, I don't want any other dudes finding
Isn't that
this.
funny?
This is mine.
You're so
Okay.
right.
To use the analogy, every guy wants to be the biggest, brightest rooster in the hen house, impregnating every hen,
Right.
all to him. If a woman finds something that gives her more intense orgasms or higher quality orgasms or more frequent orgasms, she tells every other woman she knows on planet Earth. She's blogging, she's emailing, she's texting, she's having lunch. I swear it is insane.
Yeah. Word of mouth for women is really no joke.
And every guy is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
And I always tell guys, check your ego at the door.
Yes.
I'm really glad that I'm not a woman having to date guys, because you have to walk on eggshells. I swear to God. Every guy thinks they are the best sexual partner that ever came down the pike. Okay. And as a woman, you're supposed to be sexual, but not too sexual. You know what I mean? It's that fine line. I'm like, the double standard there is insane, and it's unfair.
Right. Yeah. And you've been in the business now 15 years of this sexual wellness. Do you feel like it's changed, or is it very much the same?
It's changed. Not as much as it needs to be, but it's certainly getting better. I'll tell you one of the things we were the pioneer of, and people at first were like, what are you doing? And I go, you know what I'm doing? What everyone else should be doing. We added a female to our advisory board.
Yeah.
Then I added another. Then I added a third.
Yes. Thank you.
I had people come to me and say, why'd you add a second? And I go, what do you mean? They go, you already had one. I go, I didn't realize I was only allowed to have one. I said, let me ask you a question. Look at the advisory panel of Sexual Medicine Society of North America. Look at the advisory panel of the ISSM, which is International Society of Sexual Medicine. Look at the AUA advisory. They're supposed to represent people having intimacy. Why is it all older men? Okay. Unless the only people having sex are older men, 60 years older with one another, the boards of any of these societies should represent the people that they represent. There should be a certain amount of different ethnicities on there. There should be an equal amount of men and women. And I did that in my own company. And it was like, our advisory board is going to mirror the people that we represent. Okay. So Dr. Rachel Rubin, Dr. Ashley Winter, Dr. Amy Perlman, they're all involved in our company, and they're all prominent in our advertising, because I want people to know that no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, you are welcome at that site. And we are really, really, really involved in making sure that everyone has a seat at the table and everyone has a voice in the conversation.
I love that.
But I can't tell you how shocked I was when I heard, well, why'd you add a second one?
Right. You already checked the box with one. What do you need another?
What do you need another one for?
So
You're
crazy.
already PC now. This isn't about being PC. It's about doing the right thing.
It's crazy. Can we talk a little about your personal life? It's very rare for me to find a man who raised a child on their own, who was a solo dad. How was that experience for you? You clearly are very proud of it. You talk about it very freely and openly, which I think is awesome. And how is your son how was it for him when you were like, I'm going to go into sexual wellness?
I will tell you this, that nothing in my life will ever compare to the joy that my son brings me, except maybe my granddaughter. Now I have a 6-month-old granddaughter.
Oh, congratulations.
Adore.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even, adore is not even the word.
Yeah.
Watching him become a father. And I really love my son, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter. They are they look like a Hallmark card come to life. You know what I mean? And she's a school teacher, but she's not going back to school until they're having another one in a year, until
Oh,
they're like 7 or 8, that kind of
sure.
stuff. And they're both loving, doting parents. I became a single parent. His mom was a wonderful person. I met her during my semiconductor engineering days. She was a semiconductor engineer, and she was very intelligent, very fit, very everything. She was a model human being, except she had a very severe eating disorder, and she
Mm,
kept it totally hidden from the entire world. It almost killed her. She had a lot of problems, physical problems
wow.
and emotional problems. And I had been a big brother for 7 years. So when we started dating, she started seeing me with children without a father quite frequently, like mentoring. I
Yeah.
love mentoring because I grew up poor, but I had wonderful parents.
Mm,
And I had a lot of role models to emulate.
mm,
And I felt it would be a good show to my parents to show them how much I appreciate what they did for me if I could do the same for other people. She saw all that, and I think the relationship was going south. She ended up in something called the Rader Institute, which is an eating disorder unit, and I was
mm,
her significant other. And I think I learned more than she did.
mm.
One of the counselors pulled me aside during that. It was a 18-week program. I thought I should get an MBA out of that. You know what I mean? 4 times a week for
Yeah,
18 weeks.
sure.
I'm going, oh my God,
It's like,
like
yeah, college.
Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday night from 6 until 9:30. I'm like, do
Wow.
I get a sheepskin after this? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, can I put this on my resume? But one of the counselors pulled me aside. I'll never forget this. And she said, hey, on an intellectual, emotional level, you're here and she's here. This is one of the worst cases of bulimia we've ever seen. It'll take decades before she's able to communicate at your level. And I'm like, what?
Mm,
And I was like 30 at the time. I'm like, I don't have decades to decide if this is the right relationship.
yeah.
People don't realize this. Bulimia, anorexia is just like alcoholism or drug addiction. It is really a very difficult disease. In some cases, it might even be more difficult because a drug addict doesn't have to take drugs 3 times a day to live.
Mm,
Someone who's an alcoholic doesn't have to drink alcohol 3 times a day to live. When you have an eating disorder, you still have to eat, and
yeah.
it's really difficult. And so I had decided when I picked her up from graduation day or whatever you want to call it from the Rader Institute that this was not going to work. And she said to me, you haven't seen the changes yet, but they're working internally. Just give me time. It's kind of hard to look at someone when you've been through all that and been the significant other and you've been there and all that and go, oh no, I'm out of here. And I thought, okay, I'll just wait 6 or 8 weeks and then thing will dissipate. And then 4 weeks later, it was like, guess what? I'm pregnant. It was like, what? And it was very difficult. And I decided that, okay, I'll move you in, we'll take care of you and everything. But I made it really clear, if you're not better within 2 years, then we're separating forever. Because
Mhm.
I knew how I was wired, and it would have been very difficult for me when the child had known of us together as a family unit. And if we broke apart and I'm walking down the driveway with 2 suitcases leaving, and my child's got a hold of my leg, don't leave, you know what I mean? Like, so it was like I had set this arbitrary 2-year time frame. Things had to get better within 2 years, or I was gone. It didn't take 2 years.
Mm.
When Nick was 3 months old, her eating disorder was out of control. She had to go back in the hospital.
But she was able to sustain a pregnancy, which is pretty incredible.
It shows you the quality of human being she is. Believe it or not, in the last 40 years of her life, the only time she hasn't been bulimic was when she was carrying the child.
Wow.
The love for that unborn child was enough to say, I'm not going to harm him.
Mm.
Unfortunately, tragically, she didn't love herself as much as the child.
Yeah.
So when he was born, it got worse than it
Mm.
was prior. But that shows how caring and what a good person she is. She would not harm that child, but she was, for whatever reason, okay to harm herself.
Mm.
And so we broke up. And when he was about 4.5, she's from Wyoming originally. And it was like, if you don't marry me, I'm moving back to Wyoming. I'm not one of these guys who breaks up and sneaks in for a conjugal visit. From the time we broke up when he
Yeah,
was a year old until
that
that
was
day,
it.
we had never held hands, never. And I was like, what? I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Well, he loves you. He looks like you. He smells like you. He talks like you. When you drop him off, all he talks about is how much he loves his dad and he can't wait to see his dad. She goes, you know how he calls you every day and asks what you're wearing? I go, yeah, why does he do that? He'd call me every day. He'd have his
Mm.
mom call me. What are you wearing? I go, I have a pair of jeans on and a red shirt. He goes, She goes, he goes and puts on jeans and a red shirt.
Wow.
Like, what? And she said, it's difficult. I said, well, you're just going to have to get over that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because he's not a piece of American tourist or luggage. You don't throw him in the overhead bin and take off.
Right.
He's a being that he has rights, just like you and I. We had 50-50 joint custody. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, he needs both a mom and a dad. And unfortunately, she tried to move and take him. And they said, okay, you have to stay in the 7 southern counties of Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in Huntington Beach at the time. She moved to Temecula, which was the furthest civilization. And I'm like, oh, that's wrong. Okay, that's like 2 hours from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, now it's on. Okay, I'm going for custody. And I remember even my own attorney, you're not going to get custody. Guys don't get custody. You know, this is 1992.
Mm.
Okay. The
Wow.
only time a guy gets custody if the mom is a prostitute, a drug addict, you know what I mean, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm the better parent. Patty's a nice person, but I'm the better parent. There's no question about that. I believe that when we get in front of a judge, this thing went on over a year. It was brutal. They did this 7:30 evaluation. Oh my God. And then right the eve of trial, her attorney came in and said, okay, we're moving back. And we were in mediation. And the judge came in. Okay, you got what you want. She's moving back. And I said, no, I've been through all this. What's to keep it from this will happen again a year from now? He said, Mr. Abraham, I strongly suggest you accept this. I said, no. I said,
Mm-hmm.
you have not heard all the evidence yet. I have waited this long. I have spent a year of my life. I will have my day in court. And he looked at my attorney and said, you need to talk some sense in him. So he left. And one of my personal friends was also an attorney. They berated me. How dare you? I said, no, I owe it to my son. I am taking this. I want everything aired out. I believe I'm going to get custody. He's not going to have any sympathy for you. Yeah, I said, I don't need sympathy. I
Mm-hmm.
just want the truth aired out. We had a full blown week-long court trial
Mm.
and I got full custody.
Wow.
And the judge told me afterwards, he goes, you really stuck to your guns. And he goes, you really have beliefs. And he goes, you're a very confident, very successful man. And I go, I am. And
Mm-hmm.
I go, this was never about me, though. It was about my son,
Mm-hmm.
putting him permanently in the right situation. And from that day on, he lived with me. And his mom would come to see him, every other weekend for a
Mm-hmm.
weekend. And she was really angry and bitter for a year and a half. It's hard for a woman to lose custody.
Sure.
But in my heart, I was like, I'm going to be the better person. I had every reason to be upset and bitter. I never did anything. All I wanted to do was have 50-50 and be his dad.
Yeah.
The whole thing was because she tried to take him and flee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, eventually this bitterness and anger will pass. And it did. And we got to be really good friends. And I literally gave her a key to my home and said, if you want to come down on Wednesday nights, come down, you can do homework with him. You guys can go out and have dinner. And
Mm-hmm.
then it got to the point where she'd come down and spend time with him. And then the three of us would go to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then she later got married and had 2 young boys who were one's 6 years younger than him. And I think one's 8 years younger, or 9 years younger than him. And they would come down and I would take the 2 boys
Wow.
so she could have some alone time and would go eat. And I remember we went into this restaurant one time and the guy that ran the restaurant, I knew him pretty well. He's like, who are these two? I go, they're Nick's brothers. He goes, you never
Like,
told me
huh?
you had 4 kids. I go,
Yeah.
they're not mine. And he
Yeah.
goes, what? I go, they were really his half brothers. And he goes, what are you doing with them? I go, well, she's down here and I want her to have some alone time with Nick. And he goes, you guys pal around together? I go, yeah, I love both of them. And
Mm.
they are really, really good kids. I was invited to their weddings and
Wow.
one of them was here for a week staying with me at my home, him and his girlfriend
Wow.
over Christmas time. I
Amazing.
I wanted my son to have siblings and they're both wonderful kids and they're really nice and it just worked out really, really well.
Wow. Modern family indeed.
It is.
Um,
That's pretty much is a
yeah,
modern
it
family.
really is. Okay, as we wrap it up, what is one thing you want people to leave with about Promescent? Why is it such a fantastic product and company?
I think it's because this company has been founded on the ideals that Ron set out from day one. We are patient and we are doctor focused. Okay. We've never been about let's try to make as much money as we can as quickly as we can. We grow every year. The reason we grow is because people try the products, they like the products, and they talk about it and they refer their friends. We never want to be the cheapest because if you're the cheapest, you're not the best. Okay.
Mm.
Our products are quality, but I will tell you this, there's no risk. We have a money back guarantee. 30 days, you buy anything, you don't like it, unquestioned. Now, you get taken advantage of from time to time, and we're aware of it. It's just the world we live in right now. I won't mention any names, obviously, but one person in particular used 6 different email addresses. One to just work, one to this, and was buying product. Oh, I don't like it. I want my money back. Then would order it again because we don't require you to send the product back. Now,
Right.
I'm not suggesting anyone else do that,
I
but
mean, that's like a full-time job to
it's
manage
a
being a
full-time
scammer.
job. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, you love our products. You're obviously using them. Would it be too much to ask for you to pay for them? You know what I mean? And people ask me how many new products are you going to introduce, and sometimes it blows people away. And I go somewhere between 0 and 6 every year. They go, well, that's not good. You have to say 3. You have to. I said, let me tell you what our mantra is. For us to introduce a new product, it has to be as good, if not better, than anything else in that segment. So if I say 3, what if I don't have 3 that are as good or better? Then I'm going to introduce inferior products? No.
Right.
Every time we introduced a new product, I always send out 100 emails to the first 100 people to buy it. What gave you the confidence? Especially at first, because we were strictly delay spray. Then we had lubes. Then we went into female products. And now we have vibrators that I hope they sent you a few of those too. They're really, really
I don't
good.
think they did. I'm just saying, I don't think they did. But I'm
Well,
going
I'm
to
going to
double
have those
check.
on the way after we get off this call.
Okay.
So it's funny. I sent out 100 of these. I'm like, okay, and it's like the same person writes everyone with just a little bit of different wording. And it basically says, if it's on this site, I know it's absolutely top quality and you stand behind it 100%. The first time we put out a meh product, people go, oh, they've dropped their standards a bit. I will never do that. As long as I am running this company, our mantra is we will not introduce a product unless we know it's as good or if not better than everything else in that segment. That's crucial to our success. And people rely on us for that. I also tell people, no matter where you buy us, we're the #1 best-selling sexual enhancement product on Amazon, or male delay spray. Like I said, we're in Target, Walmart, CVS, Meijer, HEB, Wegmans, and another big one coming next year, already in the pipeline.
Great.
No matter where you buy it, we're very comfortable. But we always tell people start at promescent.com, because I was criticized again early on. People didn't realize I was a visionary, okay? Because people came to our site, they go, are you trying to educate people or sell product? I go, I feel if we educate you, the more you know, the likelier you are to buy our product. Also, it's extremely important. If you go on our site, you see blogs by doctors, sexual medicine doctors. You see testimonials by sexual medicine doctors. So what I want you to do is buy the right product for the right reason, okay?
Mm.
And then I want you to dose it or use it correctly so you have the highest. We're not about seeing how much we can sell. We want to slowly add people that like our products, buy our products, and recommend our products. So that's why we want you to be educated. We've had people now, because we've been so successful, we have people that invent a product, go, I don't want to have to figure out how to sell it. Will you take this product and put it on your website? And I do an evaluation. But the funny part is, I've had people literally say to me, there's such a demand for this product. This product isn't really all bad, but you could sell 1 million bottles in the first year because there's such a demand. I go, I don't think you understand. I don't care if it sells 10 million. If that means 10 million people would buy it and then not come back and rebuy it, I'm not putting it on my site.
I love that.
I don't worry about next month's revenue, next quarter's revenue, next year's revenue. What I worry about is keeping the reputation that we have and keeping the level of satisfaction. But here's the funny part. So we're not worried about that. But because we do things long term, we're extremely profitable. I hand out dividend checks every quarter to all my shareholders. They are thrilled. And we're a very hot acquisition target for a lot of companies, because they go, wow, the brand loyalty that we have and the trust that we have built up is really, really good. That can't be compromised for the sake of, oh, let's get a quick cash infusion and sell a bunch of products, but then ruin the idea that if it's on this site, it's top quality and they stand behind it. So that's what I really want people to understand is you have no risk in trying those products. You're going to be educated. You're going to hopefully buy the right product for the right reason and understand exactly how to use it and how to dose it. But if for some reason it doesn't work, you let us know and your refund is immediate.
I
So
love
there
that.
is no risk. And that's how this company was built. That's how Ron wanted it to be displayed. We have such great ties into the medical community, whether they're therapists or whether they're urologists or andrologists, people that deal with sexual medicine. we have a tremendous amount of respect. And it comes from doing things the right way all day, every day. You know, that saying that you hear all the time, that you do 99 things in a row correctly and people kind of take it for granted and you screw up one time and they remember it. It's true.
So
Same
true.
thing with running a business. Okay. It's very important. Are we infallible? Absolutely not. Do we occasionally, oh, we send buzzing gel instead of warming gel, you know, the guy picking and packing, you know, sure, that happens. But will we ever do, I call it a consciousness of guilt, will we ever do something where we go, oh, this isn't really all that, but let's see if we can get over it? Never in a million years. I'm running this company in someone's name that I truly respected. And I feel like I'm carrying out his vision. I feel like it would be so dishonorable not to honor him and do exactly what he wanted done with this company. And it's truly been, it hasn't been easy, but it's been a pleasure. And I can't tell you how much satisfaction I get out of talking to his wife, talking to his sons, some of his former patients. It's crazy. I've had situations where I fly to Orange County all the time because I split time between here and Orange County to go see my granddaughter back and forth. And about a month and a half ago, I was flying into Orange County. You know how when you sit next to someone on a plane, hey, where are you headed? You live here or you live there? I go, well, I live kind of both places. Oh, what do you do? I said, I run a company and it's a small OTC pharma company. Oh, really? What's the name? I said, Promescent. And the lady looked at me. Her eyes got real wide. And I'm like, oh, are you aware of it? And she said, yeah. And she goes, that's Ron's company.
Oh, wow.
I said, yeah. She said, I was one of his patients.
Wow.
And she started to tear up.
Wow.
And she said, I can't tell you how awesome it is to meet you. And she goes, I read about you because I hadn't told her my name. We're just talking on a plane. She goes, I read about you in the Orange County Register. And she goes, I read all those articles and I was so happy that someone was keeping it alive. And I'll be honest with you, we both choked up. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Because it was just this weird connection, you know?
Yeah.
And I've had calls that, you know, Ron was devout and he was Orthodox.
Mm.
And I remember one time I got a call from somebody from his synagogue
Mm.
and just called me and said, you know, I've been tracking you guys and I hear you on these podcasts and you never fail to mention him and you always eulogize him. And he said he was a mensch. He said he
Mm.
was absolutely one of the most quality human beings. And he goes, it touches me that it means enough for you. I said, I love him like a brother. And
Yeah.
I said, he would have done the same for me. Absolutely. But that's not even why you do it. You don't
Yeah.
do it as retribution. I said, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't think it would take this long. I kind of thought I'd be out after 5 years, not 15, you know? I said, but, and I will tell you this, and you'll find this really crazy. You know how I told you that we have all the success. I just wish I could share it with them. It was right 2 days before Valentine's Day, about 3 years ago now, 2022. And I woke up, it was 3:44 in the morning because I have like a digital clock right next to my bed.
Mhm.
And I was, oh my God, freaked out. I had had this dream and I was sitting in my present home, which didn't even exist when Ron was still alive. And he was sitting across from me. I have this leather white couch and there's this gray armoire next to it. And he was sitting on the armoire and he had on a robe, sandals, and this thorny crown. It was obvious that he had died and he had come back and he had an iPad. Don't ask me how you come back with an iPad. He had an iPad and he's looking through it. And he's like, female arousal gel, Vitaflux, vibrators. And I'm like, yeah. And I was all excited. I was telling him, well, we got into this, we got into that, we got into this. And I remember him just going, wow, this is amazing. And I woke up and it was so real
Yeah.
that I couldn't go back to sleep. I went
Yeah.
downstairs, I had some yogurt, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I went up, I'm sitting in my office and my heart was pounding. It was so real. So later that day, I called Ellie, that's his wife. And I was telling her about it. She goes, Jeff, let me tell you what that was. You have longed for his approval. You are so focused on, I wish he could see this. You were not going to be comfortable. And that was your body's and your mind's way of allowing him to give you those kudos, allowing him to give you the thumbs up. And I go, oh my God, I think you're right. And
Definitely.
you know, from that day until right now, I don't have that same level of anxiety that I used to.
I believe it.
It was almost like that was churning around in there. And my mind finally said, okay, is this enough? Are you happy now? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was it was really powerful. It was, and I mean, I just remember like it was so vivid. It was like him there,
I know those dreams. I know them. When
Isn't
you
that
yeah,
crazy?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it it's so powerful. It shakes you to your core. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, wow.
Right. You
And then
can't believe that it was just you wake up and you can't believe it wasn't real because in the moment it felt so
it
real. You
felt
were
so
yeah.
real. And I just remember that I was trembling with excitement, like, oh my God, he's so happy. He's so
Yeah.
excited. And I just remember he went down, he went, vibrators? And I go, it fits perfectly. We're a one stop, and he
Yeah.
was laughing, you know what I mean? And he's like, man, you've really taken this a long way. And I said, it was your genius. Without that first product,
Yeah.
that's what put us on the map. Because that's what I tell everyone. That was our hero product. Without that, none of this happens. Because people have said, oh my God, this. I said, trust me, without the first product, there's a lot of good business people in the world.
Hmm.
There aren't that many people that are that visionary. Let me explain how the product works and you will laugh. Okay. So there had been a lot of lidocaine based sprays out there
Hmm.
prior to us. And what they do is they numb you and they numb your partner, but they allow you to extend the amount of time you have for pleasure.
Okay.
So they had that and they had SSRIs. Now, people who aren't medical go, what's an SSRI? Then I remember my first reaction. Someone goes to selective serotonin. I go, I'm still not closer to understanding what that
Right.
is. Basically, they're the depression drugs,
Right.
Paxil, Prozac, those types of things. They do have a pronounced effect of delaying the IELT, which is interejaculatory latency time. So they allow you to last longer. The unfortunate part is it kills your libido, gives you
Hmm.
dry mouth, nausea, suicidal thoughts, vomiting. You're like, wait a second, I'd rather have PE. Okay.
Right.
The two options back then were those or just numb yourself up and numb your partner. And I tell people that if you're in that scenario, you might as well go take a hot yoga class or a spin class. Everybody's moving and sweating, but no one's climaxing. The whole idea of intimacy is to reach the promised land, you know what I mean? And have an orgasm, maybe. So what he did was he got together as an inorganic chemist, PhD inorganic chemist, and they changed the melting point of lidocaine so that it goes subdermal. So lidocaine in its native form is a crystal. It's like a grain of salt. It sits on your surface. It's you know, and they change it to oil aqueous. So when that happens, when they apply it, it goes subdermal. It goes below the surface. So you wait 5 to 7 minutes. It's fully absorbed. You have a higher degree of surface sensitivity. It doesn't transfer to your partner. Brilliant. Absolutely.
Wow.
It's that subtle difference that is the whole difference. And every other product, because we're patented. That's one of the first things
Of
I did.
course.
Got to patent this. And, but it was brilliant. And it was something that he had developed through knowing, it was funny because I remember saying to him, what gave you the even idea? He said, think about it. People came to me with ED. I had Viagra, Cialis, Levitra,
Hmm.
Stendra, Trimix shots. People come to me with incontinence. I got 4 or 5 different options. People come to me with prostate issues. I have LASIK, or not LASIK, robotic surgery. People came with PE. I go, well, do you want to have no libido and be nauseated? Or do you want to be totally numbed up? He goes, I just knew there had to be an answer because one of the things I will tell you, which is shocking, there are more people with PE than there are with ED, and everyone knows how big the ED market is. In
Mm.
fact, 10 to 15% of ED is misdiagnosed PE. If a man has chronic PE, meaning untreated over a long period of time, his body will start shutting down, getting an erection because he knows it leads to an unsatisfactory conclusion.
Hmm.
So, and let's step out of the realm of PE, premature ejaculation. Let's talk about the average healthy male, the average healthy female. The average healthy male lasts 5 minutes and 42 seconds of
Okay.
penetration,
I
thrusting.
love that you have those stats.
The average female takes 18 minutes to climax. There's a
Oh, wow.
medical term for it. It's called the arousal gap. People are very well aware of it. That's why there's 17 trillion vibrators in the world. That's
Right.
why guys stop, start, think about baseball scores, trying not to be in the moment so they go over the edge. That's why so many guys go, I'm the master of cunnilingus, all kind of, oral sexting to bring the gap closer so that you have a higher chance. Now, let's not set the expectation that everyone has to have mutual orgasms during intercourse. Some women can't orgasm during intercourse, I mean, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But it's always nice if that happens. It's always nice to have at least a possibility. But there's a very low possibility of it happening if a guy lasts less than 5 minutes and a woman takes over 18 minutes.
Right.
So that's what we talked about earlier, where information and knowledge. You're not alone. When you go
Right.
through these issues, don't feel like, oh, I'm less than, I can't perform. And a lot of times comedians and other people, they have this misconception. They joke about it. Oh, you're not strong enough mentally. Oh,
Right.
you don't really want to please your partner. Trust me, after doing this 15 years, a guy who suffers from premature ejaculation wants nothing more than to please his
Yeah.
partner. It's really sad. That's what they want. Don't make fun of it, make light of it, and say, oh, you don't care enough about your partner. There could be nothing further from the truth. And let's finish up on this note. Let me ask you a question. Has anyone ever looked down, or is anyone ever embarrassed to take insulin if they're a diabetic?
Of course
Does
not.
anyone ever look down on anyone for taking chemotherapy if they have cancer?
Of
Of
course
course, not.
not.
Is anyone ever ashamed? Why is it that if you have an erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, people feel bad, they tend to hide it, and they suffer in silence, or they're afraid to go to a doctor, they just search online, okay? It's part of life. It's not, there are physiological reasons why a man prematurely ejaculates, whether it's hypersensitivity to the penile nerves, low testosterone, prostatitis. It's like any other disease state.
Right.
Seek help and get better so you can have better intimacy. Because what we offer is couples solutions.
Yeah.
We want you to have better intimacy.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for all of
Oh,
this. I can't wait to shout this out, and we will of course link out to your brand. And I'm excited to dive into my box of goodies.
dive in that box of goodies. We'll add a few things.
Okay.
Whenever you go live with it,
Yeah.
I want you to send us the links because we'll put it on our website.
Awesome.
We
I
get
will.
well over 1 million visitors a month. I want partnerships. If someone gives us a platform, I want to make sure we help promote them. I want to
I
make
love
sure
that.
we get eyes. Let me tell you something. People like you inspire me,
Thank
okay?
you.
Because I'm so tired of clickbait and nonsense, and you come on and people are making light of it and jokes of it. And I'm like, I want to be on podcasts that educate and inform,
Yes. And
okay?
that's exactly what I want to do. Exactly.
Exactly what you want to do.
Mhm.
I don't go on a podcast unless I listen to it.
Yeah.
And if
Which I
I go, they're going to make
appreciate.
sight of this, or they're or
Yeah.
make light of it, or make fun of it. I'm not going on there. This is
Yeah.
a serious issue. Now we can have fun with it, and we can
Sure.
say, relax, take the temperature down, but we can laugh about life in general.
Yeah.
But the actual disease state and the actual thing that we're talking about is a serious issue. It affects people's self-esteem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You ever hear the saying? I know you have, because I don't think anyone hasn't heard this. And I came up with something. Everyone goes, "Oh my God, I never thought about that." The saying where people go, "When I'm not in a relationship, I can't buy a date. Oh my God, it's like no one's interested." But
Yeah.
when I get in a good, healthy relationship, everyone's coming on to me. Everyone,
Yes.
and I go, you know
Right.
why? I go, think about this for a second. When you're not in a relationship, you're not being satisfied. You're not satisfying anyone else. Your self esteem is low. You're walking around, your shoulders are slumped. You're giving off this negative energy. When you get into a great relationship, you're satisfied. Your partner's satisfied. Everything's going great. You're walking around, that chest is puffed out, that head is straight ahead. You just love life. You're really in a great mood and everyone's like, I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
Okay. That is exactly what is taking place. And people just go, oh, it's crazy if I'm in a relationship. There's a reason. When you're in a relationship, I know for me, when I'm in a loving relationship, music sounds better, food tastes better, colors are brighter. It's
Sure.
unbelievable. It's just when you have the feeling that you're loved and you're nurtured and you're physically and emotionally satisfied, you're in a better mood.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, let me hit stop.